Hello and welcome back to Dishelved with Adam White. Today I'm going to be talking about The Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. Now, this book was originally self-published as two books called The Crown Conspiracy and Avampartha, so I will refer to them as the two books they originally were. Uh, they just, once they were picked up smartly by Orbit, they were published from the six novels into three, which was The Theft of Swords, there was Rise of Empire, and Heir of Novron. And so I'll refer to them as the original six books they were. Now, like I said, Orbit was very smart to pick these up because these books are awesome. I've just read The Theft of Swords, which is a Crown Conspiracy, and Avampartha. I want to apologize in advance to Michael Sullivan if I mispronounce anybody's name or anything to do with this, because I haven't heard much about it, and I've only can go on what I've heard. So I'll try to get everything right, but if not, you'll know what I'm talking about when you get to the book. But I highly recommend this book. Uh, it was awesome. I want to read a couple of things he says um, about the stories. He says the idea is to make the story pop off the page and make the writing disappear. Neither awkward prose nor eloquent phrases should distract the reader from immersion in the action and the world unfolding before them. I have needed on many occasions to rewrite passages that were too pretty, too sophisticated, for fear the reader would notice them and pause to reflect. I have other works that do this. For the Ryria Revelations, I wanted to keep it simple. The result I've discovered, much to my delight, is a book that reads like a movie in the reader's mind. As you can tell, a lot of my references have been from television movies, and I think that it sets the tone and pace for these books. He also says, you see, I don't think people so much hate to read the same type of story, they just hate to read bad stories. There are an infinite number of ways to combine old ideas to create new books. If the plot is good, if the reader cares for the characters and the setting feels real, then it doesn't matter if it's about talking cats or boys destined to defeat an evil dark lord. And trying to write a completely original story is sort of like trying to compose music with all original notes. It's not necessary, and I'm not even certain it's possible. Some people have told me I should alter the names of things to make the world more unique, less generic, but I chose to use elves and dwarves, kings and queens, castles and churches, precisely because everyone knows what they are. I don't have to explain them. The less time I have to take explaining the basics of my world, the more time I have to tell a great story, and the less readers have to go through to imagine themselves in the world. Now, all that is dead on to what his writing is. He gets out of the way of the story and lets you really just go through and enjoy it from beginning to end. It's about Royce and Hadrian, two thieves, and Hadrian is a sword fighter and an expert sword fighter, and Royce is an expert thief. And they have teamed up to form the Ryria company. And let's say when this starts out, they in the Crown Conspiracy, a group of thieves tries to rob them, and it's hysterical how it turns out. I won't ruin any of it because even that beginning of the book is so great. I don't want to spoil anything. The first book, and The Theft of Swords, is a good title for the combination of these because both books revolve around trying to or stealing a sword, and things go horribly, horribly awry in both cases. And so it's things that turn out from a theft of swords turn into huge consequential things for the entire world that they live in. And they get caught up in two adventures in these two books that just are fantastic. The first one has to deal with the death of a king. He is murdered, and let's just say they get caught up in that conspiracy along with the king's son and daughter, and they have a fantastic adventure in it, and it has to do with the whole fate of a kingdom rests on it when they were originally just hired to steal a sword, and it ends up infecting a whole kingdom. In the second book, it actually features the return of characters that I didn't necessarily think would be showing up again so soon in the story. He said himself in the interview in this book that he plotted out all 6 books before he wrote the first one so that it would be an experience to read them all and have them all tie together, which I think is awesome. And it worked well. He also said that he wrote for a long period of time when he was younger and never got anything published or looked at really seriously. And he gave up writing for like 10 years or something. And then he came back to it to write stories for his daughter that was having trouble with dyslexia. And he wanted to write something that she could read and enjoy. And that was his motivation for writing these books originally. And let's just say I'm glad he came back to it, because Michael J. Sullivan was, quite frankly, just not on my radar uh, until recently. And now he's one of my favorite authors. So that's how quickly this has happened. He crafts an excellent story. The second one revolves around a magical beast, the Avampartha, and that's not the beast, it's the name of a tower. But sorry, I'm getting some notifications that I don't need here on my screen. Uh, hopefully those don't show up in the video. But in the second book, they get hired by a young girl who is from a small backwater town of barely a few people, and they get hired to steal a sword again. And of course, they both kind of laugh at the prospect again because of the way the last time one of those went. And it turns out to be a whole nother world spanning adventure that all comes together in this middle of nowhere town, and everything kind of comes together. Now, the church are kind of the bad guys in this somewhat, which is basically because they want to rule the people and have everyone under their power. So it's kind of like the real church. Uh, and they are doing a contest that'll have uh, reverberations through all the kingdoms, and let's just say it doesn't turn out as they expect, and that Hadrian and Royce get caught up in the middle of it, and it doesn't turn out as they expect either, and it doesn't turn out as the reader expects. So I really didn't see the ending. I, I can see some of the clues, and you kind of get an idea from what the mystery is that is resolved in this one, in the second book, Avampartha. But they both are just excellent, excellent books. And I cannot wait. I want to read right now the other ones too, which I'm probably going to have to postpone because I've got this booktube page and I've got to read something else so that I can keep putting up videos. But I really, really want to get back to these. You read through them really quickly. It took me a few days to get through both of these novels. They're about 300 pages apiece. and they're in these excellent editions by Orbit Books. Mine I ordered directly from the author himself. If you just search Michael J. Sullivan on Google, you can go to his homepage and order them directly from him. And I'm glad I did, because I've talked about my love of annotated editions. There's no need really to have annotations for these. They're really straightforward, like he was talking about in his interview in this. But the only thing I like better than a the only thing I like better than an annotated edition is an autographed edition. And when you order directly from him, he signs all your books. So all three of these bad boys are signed by Michael Sullivan. And that, I think, is awesome. It was so awesome that there is a prequel series to these out called the Rhyrea Chronicles. There's currently 4 books. I ordered all 4 of those from him and got them all autographed. And then there's also another standalone series of 6 books. And I think it may have to do with the distant past of these stories, but I'm not entirely certain. I didn't really care. I went ahead and ordered them anyway, and got all of them signed. I got some nice extra bookmarks from him, and they came really quickly. And they're just as cheap to order from him as they are from Amazon or anywhere. I mean, he is a good deal. Plus, with the autograph, that makes it totally awesome. That's what I love. I've got some other signed books coming in, and I'm going to be doing some reviews on those in the future. But I cannot, like I said, Michael Sullivan, for some reason, escaped my radar for quite a while, and he just goes to show again that self-published fantasy is fantastic in a lot of cases. I love this book. I can't wait to read the other ones. I've got a whole box of his books now, and I want to read them all right now. But like I said, I'm going to have to postpone that just a little bit so that I can read in between and keep putting out books on this channel. So, but I highly recommend it. I know the others are going to be great too. I love both the novels in The Stuff of Swords, A Crown Conspiracy, and Avampartha. Great characters. It's about a strong friendship between the 2 main characters, and they're really adept at what they do. And they also they do things for money. Obviously, they hire themselves out, but they also take time to do the right thing when it's necessary, because Royce always complains about it, but you get the idea that he thinks it's the right thing too sometimes. And Hadrian is really the one that always goes to say, hey, let's do the right thing here. So, and there's a lot of humor in it too. A lot of things are funny. It self-references, the second book self-references the first book, and in a funny way. And, they're fantastic books. I can't recommend them highly enough, and I really can't wait to get reading on the next ones of these. So again, this one is Theft of Swords, Michael J. Sullivan. Go to his website, order directly from him. You'll get assigned copies, and everything is fantastic, I assure you. So definitely pick this book up. This is going to be a contender for my favorite of 2022, and it's only very early in the month, so in the year too. So I definitely highly recommend this, and thanks for watching, and I will see you in a week.